So, Mariah, do we have anything from the National Weather Service right now? Anything at all about maybe the trained weather spotters don't have anything on the ground?
Well, Andy, we're not seeing anything that is updating in that area here. We are still seeing that the Quad Cities continues to have the tornado warning into portions of Des Moines there, but that's mostly further off to the west. So as of right now for us, we are mostly just kind of continuing to keep an eye on the same tornado warning that has been with us for quite some time now. Looks like even one that just kind of fell off just a bit there, it seems like, into areas of Minneapolis, or maybe it's moved a bit further north into still sticking around into portions of Boston there, but we'll continue to kind of keep an eye on this track, and it seems like rotation as of right now. We're still trying to take a look at that and see exactly where things are setting up, and continuing to monitor our trained weather spotter reports in terms of damages as well. Seems like things are for the most part continuing to stay as they were, as we've been over the next couple of previous 30 minutes here, Andy.
All right, thank you, Mariah. That's good info there. And we do continue to watch the storm. There's another tornado warning that's in effect around Burlington, Iowa. We haven't been watching this one quite as closely because the part of that storm that's rotating is actually not even in our coverage area, even though a little bit of the tornado warning is in effect around Burlington. That's been around Fort Madison. And again, they're more than likely watching folks from Quincy, Illinois, so we haven't had to focus on that as much. Been keeping one eye on it, though, at times as it does get a little bit closer to our coverage area. Again, that would be including Burlington and West Burlington. But right now, that storm still producing a lot of thunder and lightning, and it does still have at least a little bit of rotation with it around Fort Madison. But there has not been anything confirmed on the ground yet with that storm. So again, we haven't been watching that one quite as closely because, well, it's a little unusual, quite honestly, that we have a storm that produces a tornado for as long as this one has, more than likely. And again, we'll get the official info on that coming up tomorrow. But we do continue to get some good news here, as there is still a little bit of rotation right now. It'd be north of New Boston, not so much that purple that you see, but even the little blue speck there southwest of Eliza. There still could be a little bit of rotation here, but it's not nearly what we saw earlier. So at this point in time, if this trend can continue, well, then the tornado warning that was issued that's supposed to go until 6 o'clock for Mercer and Rock Island counties, well, then that would definitely be canceled early. We're not there yet, but if this trend continues, well, we'll get there. And again, we'll get there before 6 o'clock with no tornado warning. But again, not ready to do that just yet. All right, so that's where, well, we do have at least some rotation anyway. I'm going to check it again to see if we've had any official, more additional storm reports that, from the verified tornado reports, because eventually we're going to have a lot more on this map. But again, sometimes it takes them a little while to get into the system. As of right now, still just that initial report from around Salem, but we have seen reports from many people who have seen the tornado on the ground just over the last hour or so. So again, there's no doubt that this will fill in even more here in the near future. All right, so here's the hail tracker. We do have some large hail around Burlington, more than likely. And then we also have that hail that is crossing over the Mississippi River. And here's another good thing here. Do you remember what I said just a little while ago? If we could start to see a little less lightning, if we could start to see the hail shrinking with that storm that's been producing the tornado, that would be some good news. And that is the case here. So around Wapello, look at the hail. This is over the last hour or two. You can see it was a lot larger, the hail, where we had the brighter colors for a little bit. And that is weakening as it is in the northwest corner of Mercer County, just about to get into Rock Island County. So that is definitely some good news. One of the things that we were hoping to see, and I'll just back this up a little bit. At this point in time, we had some large hail pretty close to Minneapolis as the tornado was right along that trajectory and right along that path also. So if you look at the colors, we've got the green, the yellow, the orange, the red, the purple, the almost white. That was where we had the large hail. But now, so remember that color pattern, now we have a lot less yellow, a lot less orange, and a lot less red. So there's not as much hail going on there. So that is another sign that that storm is weakening. And again, something that we've been hoping for quite some time. All right, more people without power, not too much of a surprise with some power line troubles. So I think Jim has an update on those numbers now from, again, southwest of the Quad Cities.
And you're right about that. Certainly, as we see the storm intensify, we would expect more power outages to take effect. And, of course, that is happening. According to Access Energy, it has 269 customers in Henry County without power. That number is up to 477 in Lee County. You've been tracking this storm so well for us, so we're seeing how that is developing. Again, Access Energy customers in Henry County, there are 269 customers without power tonight. In Lee County, there are 477 counties. And a reminder from Henry County deputies, do not call them to report any power outages you are experiencing them. You do need to call your power company. They're the ones who will respond and try to get restored as soon as possible. And again, those power outages, Access Energy customers in Henry County, 269 of them without power, up to 477, almost 500 now in Lee County. Certainly as this storm develops and as it keeps tracking northeast as you're showing, we could see those numbers rise in Illinois as well, Andy.
All right, just checking in with the National Weather Service right now, looking at the area of rotation that's remaining from where we've had a tornado. Have not had any confirmation or any reports on the ground recently, but the tornado warning does continue with those supercells that we're watching south of the Quad Cities. And the meteorologist with the National Weather Service was just at a seminar with them a couple weeks ago, talking specifically about days like this. They're filling us in on their operations, how it works for them, and just working on ways that we can all be better partners with each other to get the info out. And what they've let us know is kind of like what I mentioned a little while ago. Specifically, they have said there's a little bit of recycling with the supercells south of the Quad Cities. That's what's on the map right now around Eliza, and just a little less structure than they had 30 minutes ago. But they are still in a favorable environment, so we're going to continue with these tornado warnings for a little while longer, including as they cross into Illinois, which they've done now, at least on the first storm anyway, including the southern part of the QC metro area. So again, the environment, that does let us know there's likely not a tornado on the ground right now in Mercer County, otherwise that would be the focus. But the environment is still somewhat favorable. There is still a little bit of rotation here. But as this storm gets closer to the Quad Cities, remember what happened in the metro area an hour and a half ago. We had some rain come down. That actually cooled things down just a little bit. So that means the atmosphere is a little more stable or a little less unstable. Same thing, however you want to look at it. So that would be good news. This one maybe would not cycle or flare back up and produce another tornado as it gets a little closer to the Quad Cities. Again, that's the benefit of some of the rain that we had hour and a half, 2 hours ago. Now, the exact same can't be said for the storm that's a little further south, again, just on the fringe of our coverage area as you get a little closer to Burlington. And we're still not seeing anything like what we saw with the tornado that's moved through Iowa. There is still some rotation, but some of these areas it's going to get into, even further south, they really haven't been cooled down by any rain. They're still somewhat unstable, and that means this is going to get into an environment that is still favorable for a potential tornado. So eventually we'll start watching that one more, but again, we haven't been doing that yet because this has been around Fort Madison. That's just outside of our coverage area, and we've had a tornado on the ground in our coverage area, so naturally that's going to be the one that gets paid the most attention. So that's kind of the thought process that we've had here recently. All right, so there is still that little bit of rotation right to the southwest of the Quad Cities, right here, south of Muscatine, west of Aledo and Reynolds, and that is moving off toward the north. Now, everything else you see on this map is basically just straight line winds, and that's why we've had some severe thunderstorm warnings north of the Quad Cities, basically just for either wind or hail, but even those have quieted down a little bit, and they're only covering the far northern fringes of the area. So again, the main things we're watching, the two different tornado warnings, and again, hard to believe, this tornado warning, it's probably actually the third in a series of tornado warnings that all started all the way down here in the far southwestern corner of the viewing area. So that's a tornado on the ground for quite some time there through a few different Iowa counties and potentially maybe a little bit of Mercer County. But again, those are the warnings that are in effect right now. At this point in time, the warning for southern Rock Island County is supposed to go for about another 21 minutes or so. So we'll continue watching that. There's a camera shot from Galesburg, Illinois, still out ahead of the storms for the most part. So it doesn't look too bad there right now. That's a good thing. We'll continue watching, though. as these storms eventually will get to Galesburg, because it is a line of storms that's moving off to the east-northeast. And we knew the environment was not a good one. It was not a good setup for just a calm weather day. If you are a severe weather fan, it was a good setup, and I know a lot of storm chasers were ready to go today, and that paid dividends, because that's one of the reasons we were able to so confidently say that there was a tornado on the ground for quite some time, because again, it wasn't just one or two, it was several people seeing the tornado with their eyes, getting pictures, getting video, and sending some of that stuff back to the National Weather Service. So this is where we stand right now. Again, it's 5:40 or so, and this tornado warning is supposed to go until 6. I think it'll be in effect for a little while longer, but I won't be too surprised if it ends up being allowed to expire even before 6 if we don't have any more changes for the worse. Because again, we have not had anything confirmed on the ground recently. But we did just get a new severe thunderstorm warning, but even again, that different, as that means the threat for a tornado is still not quite as bad. But let me just zoom this out a little bit. And you can see that new tornado warning. It's in effect now for portions of Henderson and Warren and Mercer counties in Illinois. It's just flashing on the map now. I'll put the expiration time up so we can all find out together. This was just issued, and it's going to go until 6:30. That's 50 minutes from now. And the threats here with this storm, well, we have hail that's about an inch in diameter, and we have winds that are about 60 miles per hour. So that's why it's a severe thunderstorm warning. And again, that was just issued basically south of the Quad Cities for the box that you see highlighted, again, south of town. All right, as far as the rotation goes, Mariah, we're not seeing nearly as much as we were earlier. It's not quite gone. What there is of the rotation now coming from Mercer County into Rock Island County, but again, haven't had anything confirmed on the ground. Mariah, this is supposed to go until 6 o'clock, but again, I don't think we've had any confirmation of a tornado on the ground for quite some time now. Is that correct?
Right, Andy, but we are getting an update from our Quad Cities for the National Weather Service here. It says update on a northern tornado warning, low-level rotation, and tornado threat warning. Still strong mid-level rotation, and we will keep this warning in place until 6 p.m. The main thing we are seeing here is the straight line wind threat will continue. Then others are mostly reporting and chiming in, saying storms look to be dying just a bit here, but we still don't want to let our guard down. Of course, we still want to stay weather aware and remind ourselves of our tornado safety tips here. You want to get to possibly the lowest level of your home, get to the basement there, stay away from windows and doors. You also want to try to go to the interior room or closet if you do not have basement in your home. And if you want to take a look here at some of your health safety tips as well, if you are maybe driving, or if you're listening to this maybe here, you want to pull over, or maybe if you know someone who is driving, you want to remind them to try to drive to a garage or gas station if you're noticing that the hail is on the larger side of things, and you still want to stay away from windows and even skylights. And if you happen to be outdoors and know someone maybe who is outdoors, that you want to try to tell everyone to seek shelter immediately right away, Andy.
All right, good safety information there, especially again as we've had some hail today, up to about an inch and a half in diameter. So hopefully everybody was able to have the car in the garage. This is something we've been talking about even back to last week. It just looked like parameters were going to come together on Tuesday, today, for severe weather, and that has certainly been the case. That being said, we've lucked out in the Quad Cities as we have seen far from the worst of the weather. We had some thunder, some lightning, really not a big deal though, especially considering some folks have, well, had a tornado, and that tornado has done some damage. We've already seen or read a couple of those reports. All right, so here's the satellite and radar loop. You can see what's left of the storms. You know, they're not quite as big, or at least not as many areas are being covered by the thunderstorms, but they are still somewhat strong, and we are still dealing with the possibility of a tornado. And again, we can't quite rule that out. That is why we do have a tornado warning in effect that does include a little bit of Rock Island County, south of the Metro Quad Cities, all the way up until about 6 o'clock coming up this evening. So here are the tornado warnings with the information on the screen. Louisa, Mercer, Rock Island up until 6 o'clock. Again, it does not include anybody within the Metro Quad Cities, inside the 80 and 280 loop around the Quad Cities. This is southwestern Rock Island County into Mercer County. And then there's another one here a little bit closer to Burlington. We have not had anything confirmed on the ground with that tornado warning like we have have had with this particular warning. A tornado watch continues. Remember the difference here. Watch, conditions favorable, and this has been a good watch, even though we haven't had many tornadoes. We've had at least one in the watch area and one that was on the ground for a long time. So the watch goes till 10 o'clock. Let me rephrase that. It's scheduled to go until 10 o'clock right now, but I believe that too will end up being canceled probably an hour or two, maybe even 3 hours before 10 o'clock. All right, so these are the warnings now. Again, tornado warning, severe thunderstorm warning, and severe thunderstorm warning up in the northern part of the area. So this has been very useful. It's our pinpoint Doppler radar. This is how we've been able to show you exactly where that tornado was. We'll get the map tomorrow from the National Weather Service. And there's no doubt the exact areas where we were looking at that tornado signature on the radar. I have just about no doubt that's exactly where we will get some damage reports from. And again, that tracks all the way south of the Quad Cities and southwest of the Quad Cities. So as we go in for a closer look, before I put it in reverse and show you the path of where there was a tornado on the ground, we got to take first things first here and consider where there still could be a tornado flaring up. And that would be right along the Mercer County and Rock Island County border, but it just doesn't look all that bad on the radar right now. So I know a lot of people very happy about that and relieved about that because, again, it looked pretty bad for quite some time on the radar. All right, so I'm going to change this. We've got it looped here over the last couple of hours, so we're going to take it all the way back to the beginning, and it was right around Salem, right there, around 218. And I mentioned 34. Well, eventually it crossed over 34, and then it went from southeast Iowa in Henry County to right here, a little bit of Des Moines County, some of Louisa County. Then it crossed over 61. That little red dot is what I'm referencing. And then as it approached the river, started to weaken a little bit. We'll see if it stayed together crossing over the river or not. But then, again, since then, has not been all that bad. The local storm report map here, okay, so we have the tornado report around Salem. That was early on. And we've had at least one more. Maybe it's somebody who didn't see the tornado, but they are reporting wind damage. And we did have a report in Yarmouth there. Not a real big town, but a town nonetheless. In Yarmouth, we did see that that's where the tornado went as well. All right, so, again, we're going to get a damage report from the Quad Cities National Weather Service coming up tomorrow, but no big surprise here that we're going to see more of those reports filling in. Here's some more good information, though. We don't have a ton of rotation being picked up by Doppler radar right now. There could be some hail falling in southwest Rock Island County, not too far away from places like Reynolds and Andalusia, but good news with this hail, it's not likely foreshadowing where a tornado is going to be. All right, so that's where the hail is now, not quite to Andalusia or Reynolds just yet, a little bit west of those towns, but approaching Highway 92. If you took 92 well west out of the Quad Cities, eventually you'd likely be running into some hail right now, as that looks to be the case over in southwestern Rock Island County. The hail reports, they've been around an inch and a half in diameter. Something that could have also been a little bit worse today. Early on, there was some things indicating the potential for 2-inch hail. I know a lot of people were pretty concerned about that. Some people really kind of talking up the hail threat today. Well, so far the hail's been about an inch to an inch and a half or so, and we haven't had a lot of damage reports as far as that goes. But that's where the hail is most likely right now. And again, on this map, you can see some things southwest of the Quad Cities. All right, Mariah, anything new from the National Weather Service right now?
Well, Andy, we are noticing that looks like the tornado warning that was a bit further south of us has been canceled by the National Weather Service. So if we could go back to our watches and our warnings page here, you'll notice that looks like we're mostly dealing with 2 severe thunderstorm warnings right now and then a tornado warning, of course, the one that we are continuing to track here. So it seems like the areas further south seem to be calming down just a bit there, but obviously still we don't want to let our guard down. We still want to stay weather aware and still keep our eye to the sky and continue to stay up to date on what is happening here. So with these severe thunderstorm warnings, we are noticing that it looks like we're still seeing winds right around 60 miles per hour, and our inch in terms of hail is mostly right around 1 inch in terms of hail, and this will be in effect until around 6:30, so about 30 to about 40 minutes or so. And we're noticing that again it's mostly still radar indicated, but hail is still a possibility, and we can still expect to see some pretty strong winds within these severe thunderstorm warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings as well. well. For the other one that is more towards Mount Pleasant here, that warning will expire in about 25 minutes here. So still important, expiring or lasting until around 6:15 here. And we're still noticing kind of similar to our other severe thunderstorm warning, mostly seeing wind speeds right around 60 miles per hour and a quarter size hail. So seems like the hail is doing a little less here, but still we are continuing to see that even with that tornado warning still tracking its way off to areas of the north and northeast, still moving close to about 40 miles per hour, Andy.
All right, thanks for that update, Mariah. And also, you can't help but notice this severe thunderstorm as it moves off to the northeast. It's literally going to go right over some of the places that got hit by the tornado earlier. Hopefully, there's not too much debris or anything out and about, because we're going to get 60-mile-an-hour winds. And as you might imagine, well, with 60-mile-an-hour winds, they'd be able to pick things up that had been damaged by the tornado earlier. And again, this is basically the path that the tornado took. And here we go again, even though that atmosphere's been worked over once already, enough instability in short order that we're going to have a severe thunderstorm coming through now too. So hate to see that, especially the folks who might be out kind of assessing some of the damage in a little bit of Henry or Des Moines County or Mercer County. They're going to have to take a break from that in a hurry, because again, we'll have another severe thunderstorm warning coming in. All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to stick with this either until the tornado warning is canceled early, or we're going to take it right up to around 6 o'clock or so, or shortly before that, and then we'll be able to bring you our Quad Cities news at 6 as scheduled, as long as we don't have any other tornado warnings. Otherwise, we'll just stay on right on through the newscast. But again, so that's what we have going on right now. Severe thunderstorm warning around Mount Pleasant and Burlington, winds and hail, and then we still have the tornado warning from Mercer County into Rock Island County. And Mariah, just jump in at any time if you see that they are canceling that on the chat room over there. Okay. Just jump in and let us know. But as of right now, it sounds like they're going to stick with it for a little bit, even though it doesn't look nearly as bad as it did earlier. We'll check that rotation here one more time. Again, fortunately, it doesn't really resemble anything like it looked earlier when we had a tornado on the ground for many miles southwest of the Quad Cities. All right, so again, they're sticking with it now. And again, no distinct area of rotation with this storm. They did give us an update just 5-7 minutes ago that said they're going to hang with it for a little while longer. But that is the latest here on our rotation tracker, a tool that's been very handy because, again, it doesn't always work out in a way that you can so easily pick out where the tornado is. And we're able to show you exactly where the tornado is. But today, it was one of those days. Hopefully that doesn't mean that the tornado was really bad on the ground. I know it caused some damage, hopefully not too much damage. And again, it doesn't mean just because it was so easy to pick out that it definitely did widespread major damage. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So hopefully it was just easy to pick out, but maybe still a relatively weak tornado. But again, that is for tomorrow. We'll think about that more then. All right, so here's the latest on the rotation tracker. Again, we do still have some hail coming down, but even the hail's not really large right now. It's about an inch or so. Hail around southwest of Mount Pleasant, north of Burlington, around Oquawka, and then also a little bit here in Rock Island County. And this could clip portions of the western side of the Quad Cities here. As we had our showers and thunderstorms earlier, then it's been relatively quiet since then. Mariah, one of those nights where we're watching things on the radar that they're affecting people in our coverage area, but in the Metro Quad Cities, we've been spared of the worst of the weather.
We have, Andy. It seems like much of our Quad Cities here has just mostly dealt with a few clouds, rain showers, even a bit of some breezy winds today, but for the most part, looks like the stronger portion of our stronger system stayed more off to the south. Still taking a look here at those two severe thunderstorm warnings that are passing through areas of Mount Pleasant into areas of Minneapolis again, and continuing to press into Oakville, into areas of Burlington as well, and that will continue to stick around as we head throughout much of our over the next couple of 30 minutes here. Still seeing wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour in hail, mostly right around 1 inch. And for our severe thunderstorm warning, that is mostly passing through areas of Hillsborough. We're still seeing that system stick around until mostly about 15 to 25 minutes or so as well. So still kind of keeping an eye on things. We don't want to let our guard down too fast there, but it does look like things are gradually starting to improve, and looks like things are still kind of calming down, especially for areas further south, Andy.
All right, sounds good. And again, no information on them canceling the tornado warning early as of yet. It's supposed to go for another 6 minutes or so. It's 5:54 right now. It goes up until 6 o'clock. So that's supposed to go for another 6 minutes. And again, we'll take this coverage all the way up until 6 o'clock. Or if they do cancel that tornado warning early, then we'll jump back on. And okay, so a new severe thunderstorm warning. So all right, so that gives us something else. That's for the Quad Cities. But again, it's a severe thunderstorm warning. It is not a tornado warning, but you can see that yellowish orange box flashing right around the Metro Quad Cities. That's a new severe thunderstorm warning, and this will also be for winds that are about 60 miles per hour and hail that could be about an inch in diameter. Those are the bare minimum thresholds, by the way. This goes till 6:45. So severe thunderstorm warning in the Quad Cities. Obviously, this is affecting way more people than we've had affected so far, because again, it's basically just about all of Rock Island County and just about all of Scott County too. So new severe thunderstorm warning, and I do just want to check the specifics here. Hail about an inch in diameter, winds 60 miles per hour in diameter. And what that means is it's a bare minimum severe thunderstorm warning. Now, the reason that makes it a severe thunderstorm is because you can get some damage once you get to those levels. Again, 1 inch hail and winds that are about 60 miles per hour or stronger. So you can get some damage, but again, you get a whole lot more damage once those winds end up at 70 and 80 miles per hour, or once that hail gets to about 1.5 inches or 2 inches in diameter. So on the pinpoint Doppler radar here, you can see the new warning. It does include Davenport and Bettendorf and Eldridge, and stops just short of LeClaire, but it also includes Rock Island, Moline, East Moline, Silvis. So in the Metro Quad Cities, again, we had just been saying we had missed the worst of the weather so far. We're still not likely to get the worst of the weather because there's been a tornado on the ground for quite some time earlier this evening, but we are going to have some damaging winds nonetheless, potentially at about 60 miles per hour, and we're also going to have some hail that's up to about 1 inch in diameter. So that's the latest warning that just came out. And that's also another pretty good indication. This tornado warning is going to go away at 6 o'clock, if not before. But now, normally what the meteorologists at the National Weather Service do, now that it's already 3.5 minutes away from 6 o'clock, they'll probably just let that go until 6. We'll see that go away, and we'll continue the severe thunderstorm warning for the Metro Quad Cities. Again, so that's the latest here. That's the newest warning. And again, if we want a little bit, we'll say it's a good news, bad news situation. Good news, it's not a tornado warning. The bad news is it includes the Metro Quad Cities here. So you can see that. So we're going to be able to tap into some of our cameras here, our Quad Cities cam in Bettendorf. We'll show you that. It's kind of zoomed out right now. And then we're also, I don't know if somebody's available downstairs, maybe one of those times where we put a camera up just from right outside the door because these strong winds and potentially some hail coming into the Quad Cities. All right, so check this out. So this camera's in Bettendorf. If you look kind of due south, it's not quite that dark, but when you look over in this direction, there's the Centennial Bridge. Look how dark the skies are here. That's that severe thunderstorm coming into the Metro Quad Cities here, and that's why we just got the warning issued. So it's not going to be the worst weather we've ever had in the Metro Quad Cities, but we are going to have a severe thunderstorm nonetheless, and we're going to pull this up on the radar here. Mariah, so we need to gear up for some 60-mile-an-hour winds and potentially some hail. As we look at our pinpoint Doppler radar, that storm really knocking on the door here on the west side of the Quad Cities right now.
Yes, Andy, we are noticing that. Looks like we checked with the National Weather Service, and it looks like certain areas of the tornado warning are looking to expire, as you said, just at 6. But we're still kind of keeping an eye on the severe thunderstorm warning as it is moving into our Quad Cities. Mostly still kind of similar to seeing the same wind speeds, pretty close to 60 miles per hour here. And we're noticing that hail is mostly right around 1 inch as we're heading and continuing to keep an eye on these storms and these systems as they continue to push further north here. This warning will stay in effect just for about 30 more minutes here. We're continuing to see it stick around, and we still need to stay weather aware as we're heading into our evening. Here's a quick look at your hail tracker. So if you're more towards areas of Buffalo Prairie into Andalusia here, this is where we're possibly seeing the strongest hail cores, I would say. Still mostly seeing our inches in terms of hail right around 1 inch there, so definitely still something that is important as we're heading and taking a look here at the system. We are seeing strong, heavy downpours in terms of rain, even though those gusty winds as well. So I'm sure those areas that seen multiple tornado warnings further south are still dealing with those gusty winds here. So some debris may be lofted into the air here, and we're noticing here that we continue to stay weather aware as this system continues to roll through, especially as it arrives into our quad cities here. Just mostly the hail looks to be a bit on the outskirts as of right now, moving close to 40 to 45 miles per hour, Andy. So of course we are going to still keep an eye on the system as it continues to push through.
All right, Mariah, that's good coverage there. And we can pull back up our Quad Cities cam in Bettendorf. I want to show you that view here one more time. And if you can see, again, over on the right side, significantly darker, that's where the storm is moving in from. And we're going to continue following this here. The storm approaching the Metro Quad Cities. It's about to arrive here in just a little bit. So it'll be really a matter of minutes. And we'll start to get, well, just a good old-fashioned severe thunderstorm in the Metro Quad Cities. Not a tornado as of right now. It's not a tornado-warned storm. So a little bit of good news there. Seems like a little bit odd of something to celebrate, but we've had a tornado on the ground for a very long time, for a while today. So again, even though it doesn't seem like a good thing to have a severe thunderstorm warning in the... All right, so we've got a little more rotation showing up. We're going to have to check that out because we do have a new tornado warning that has just been issued by the National Weather Service. So here's the latest tornado warning for Scott County now. This is just issued a moment ago. We're going to go ahead and double check this. Tornado warning for Scott County, and this is until 6:45, and it's a radar indicated potential tornado. So again, right now, Scott County, this is mostly just Scott County. It's real close, obviously, to Rock Island County, but when we zoom in a little bit here, I'm going to take a couple things off of the map. So we're going to go ahead and continue this coverage right now on our Quad Cities News at 6, as we have a brand new tornado warning that was just issued, and it includes Scott County, including Davenport and Bettendorf. All right, so here is the latest warning, and I mentioned, obviously, there's a lot going on the radar here, so I'm going to turn a couple of things off. I have the radar data momentarily turned off, so you can see the warning now. It stands out just a little bit more. It does not include Rock Island County. It's very close, but this is basically the river right here, and it was done purposely by the National Weather Service to be focusing on Scott County. That is a brand new tornado warning that is in effect for another 45 minutes as it was just issued. So I do want to turn some of the radar data back on here, specifically that product we've been watching. Okay, around Bluegrass right now, that's where we do have some rotation and the potential for a tornado. Again, west side of the Quad Cities. This is not too far from Davenport. This is in Bluegrass. You know, that drive on 61 doesn't really take very long at all. So this storm is now just west of the Quad Cities, and it's about 7 miles west of Davenport on the west side of town. And this is going to continue moving off to the northeast as it has flared up just a little bit. And again, really a concern right around Bluegrass right now. And the latest on the storm is it does continue moving, and it's going to be northeast at 40 miles per hour. That's one thing that has been very consistent, hasn't really changed all that much. But right now, the dangerous part of the storm is right over Bluegrass, basically, moving northeast at 40 miles per hour. Just wanted to double check that with the National Weather Service. They're seeing exactly what our pinpoint Doppler radar is seeing, and what that is an area of rotation that is flared up just enough that it does warrant a tornado warning now for Bluegrass and for Davenport, especially west side of town. So here's where the area of rotation is. I mentioned the drive from Davenport to Bluegrass on 61 doesn't take very long at all. Well, right now, that would be a dangerous drive along Highway 61 because that's where there could be a tornado. This is moving northeast, so if 61 isn't a busy enough road, it'll be crossing over 280 and then likely 80 if it hangs together for long enough. So that could be another tornado on the ground. And if we were to back this up, we're not going to do it right now, but if we were to back this up all the way, this is likely that exact same part of the storm that was producing a tornado earlier. Again, we said sometimes it goes through these cycling phases where it'll have a tornado for a while, then not, and it goes back to having a tornado. Well, that's exactly what we're looking at here, and it has flared back up. Could be cycling into another tornado here along Highway 61 and approaching 280. There's no doubt we still have a lot of trained weather spotters out, so if they see a tornado on the ground, they let us and the National Weather Service know right away, and then we're able to shift things from a radar-indicated tornado to a tornado on the ground. But again, so far that just hasn't really been the case. All right, this is northeast, 40 miles per hour. So as we put a little bit of a tracker on this, I'm going to zoom it out temporarily. And we are going to back it up just a little bit so we can get the exact path there. Okay, so this is going to approach 80 and 280. I bet you it comes very close to that interchange there on the northwest side of the Quad Cities. This is our area of rotation, and over the next, we're going to take it out. We're just going to do the next 20 minutes. You can see how much progress it will make in 20 minutes. Little Groves, Probsty, and Eldridge, and then eventually on to Parkview. So Little Groves, Probsty, those are some areas on the west side of the Quad Cities, not that far at all from west or northwest Davenport, and it's going to continue, and it's eventually going to get pretty close to the National Weather Service office. That's right where you see that the radar, the beam that's spinning around. That is where the National Weather Service office is. So again, those are some places. Again, these are all on the west side of the Quad Cities, and they could be impacted by a tornado, as the potential is there for a tornado. All right, I have the view of our Quad Cities cam in Bettendorf pulled up again. You're going to look from Bettendorf through Davenport, and then look in the background there. That's what we are looking at there. Could even be a little bit of a shelf cloud coming along with this thunderstorm. So not only is it a severe thunderstorm warning for the Quad Cities, but it is a tornado warning in Scott County right now. That tornado warning issued just a few minutes ago, so that's going to go for about another 40 minutes or so. That's a view from up above. Here's the view from, well, down below. And again, it's an ominous sight in the Metro Quad Cities right now. We've been telling you about the construction beginning in downtown Rock Island. That's what those barricades are for. That is a live look from our building. There's the new courthouse. And you can see, again, plenty of barricades up for all the work that's going to be done in Rock Island. But you can also see the dark clouds heading into the Quad Cities, as we are going to get a quick shot of some hail. Could be up to an inch in diameter, and some winds that are about 60 miles per hour. So that is a live view right now. There's the Stern Center in the background, and then the U.S. Bank Building. This is the view from downtown Rock Island. All right, and for the directors, from now on, if you want, go ahead and pull up one of the double boxes, and we'll leave either this view or the Quad Cities cam up in the smaller box while we're able to pop the radar up and everything else up into the bigger box so we can see exactly what's going on. So, all right. So a little bit of good news here. The rotation tracker, it's already weakened just a little bit. Now, interestingly enough, as this storm gets real close to the radar site, sometimes you don't get the best radar data when it's just a mile or two away. I know it seems a little bit funny, but sometimes it's better if it's just a little, you don't want it to be too far away, but then again, you don't want it to be too close. So we'll continue tracking this. And again, I'm not ready to say that we definitely aren't going to have a tornado just yet because of what I just said. But again, that's what we're looking at there. So we'll leave our Quad Cities cam up in Bettendorf over on the right side. And again, this is the area of rotation that we are looking at right in the middle of the screen. Again, we had mentioned Bluegrass, so this is not too far now from Walcott. You know, it'll be south of the truck stop right now, but approaching 280, then it'll be 80, and then it'll be 61 again, crossing over that highway once again. All right, so nothing confirmed on the ground here, but the tornado warning does continue for a while longer. In fact, as we plot the warning here, you're going to see what I mean, as it is a tornado warning. And again, this is for the metro portions anyway of the Metro Quad Cities. It's basically Scott County, tornado warning until 6:45. Severe thunderstorm warnings, those continue for other parts of the Quad Cities and for other parts of the area down to the south. But real busy severe weather map, as you can tell. That's what we are seeing, though, right now here around the Quad Cities. So this is the tornado watch. We've had multiple tornado warnings. The tornado watch goes until 10 o'clock. And here's a map with just a little less color on it, but you can see the tornado warning pretty distinctly right there, centered right over Scott County. Pinpoint Doppler radar, Mariah, has a lot of thunder and lightning on it, something else that we haven't talked about. But thunder and lightning, anytime you can hear the thunder, you don't want to be outside. That means you are close enough to the thunderstorm that you could be struck by lightning, and well, we don't want that either. So far, I see you're monitoring the chat. Anything from the National Weather Service.
Well, Andy, the only thing that we are seeing right now is that the National Weather Service here in the Quad Cities is actually taking shelter now for this tornado warning that we are seeing roll into our region here. It is stated that the Des Moines office will be taking over, so this is just another reminder that we do need to stay safe, hunker down, and you need to wait out this storm and this tornado as it continues to push through. We want to remind you, of course, to always get to the lowest level of your home if possible, and that interior of the room or closet if you do not have that basement. This warning will stick around until about 35 more minutes, still moving pretty close to 40 miles per hour, so that's been pretty consistent here, still moving to the northeast, so eventually making its way further north and east into areas of Clinton here. But as of right now, still seeing this warning stick around for areas of our Davenport area, Walcott area, even El Ridge, even LeClaire here, so definitely quite a serious moment for us where we need to stay weather aware and keep our eyes to the sky and to the information, Andy.
All right, thank you, Mariah. And I'm not sure if there's a better example of practicing what you preach than what they're doing right now. This isn't the first time they've done that. Other times, the La Crosse National Weather Service has taken over operations, I believe, for a little while. Right now, any warning or any update that we get will be coming from meteorologists in Des Moines for good reason, though. They have a brand new building, well, it's almost brand new, on the north side of Davenport, right here where the radar is, right by the airport, Davenport Municipal Airport. And again, the area of rotation, I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, is approaching the radar site. That means it's approaching their office. Well, when their office was built, obviously it has a very safe shelter, and that's where they are right now. So again, a lot of our good friends at the National Weather Service, I'm sure they're in the safe place. That's a good thing, and I'm glad they have that safe place there too, because again, a lot of good meteorologists doing a lot of good things for us here in the Quad Cities. Once the storm passes, they'll be back out. They'll take back over operations as it continues once it gets beyond the airport. But for now, they're in a safe spot. And again, is there a better way or is there a better example of practice what you preach than what the meteorologists are doing right now? They always want everyone to seek shelter, to make good, wise decisions, and that's exactly what they're doing right now at the National Weather Service office in the Quad Cities right now. So I'm glad they've made that call. But that also means if you are on the northwest side of the Quad Cities, you need to be doing the same thing. Get down to a shelter, a basement, the lowest level of your home. Stay safe. This is where we have the rotation. And again, a real smart move by the meteorologists at the National Weather Service. You can trust them when they tell you that you should go seek shelter, when that's exactly what they do when severe weather threatens, as is the case at the National Weather Service office right now. All right, so that's the latest on the pinpoint Doppler radar. I'm glad we have a couple of cameras pulled up for you here. One on the ground in Rock Island, one up above in Bettendorf, and you can see the views in the Quad Cities as that storm is now moving into portions of the metro area. On the big board there, I am going to switch it over. We do need to check the rotation one more time, as again, that does approach the metro Quad Cities, and it is moving in. Obviously, the sirens are going to be going off. You might hear those in Scott County, and some of those even leaking over into just a little bit of Rock Island County. But they go off for winds of 70 miles per hour or stronger. They go off for 2-inch hail or larger. And of course, they go off for tornadoes. But it's not just tornadoes, but that is why they are going off right now, especially throughout Scott County, as most of Scott County is under a tornado warning right now. So on the rotation tracker, again, the area of rotation, again, very close to the Doppler radar site here. If anything, it'd be along that Highway 130, again, very close to the National Weather Service. It'd be in this area. And I also mentioned a few minutes ago, sometimes you don't get the best radar data when the storm is literally right on top of the radar. If you're wondering, like, why? Well, the way the radar beam works, it's set at a pretty low level. 0.5 degrees is the tilt, or the elevation tilt, that we use most often. So the radar beam that's being sent out, it's just barely going up above the ground. But then as it travels away from the radar, it gets a little higher, a little higher, a little higher. Well, we can have different scans at different angles, at different tilt angles, but one thing we don't have is a tilt angle that goes straight up. The radar doesn't do that. So it's not pointing straight up to look at the thunderstorm, as the thunderstorm is going right overhead. So it's kind of missing some of the important things about the thunderstorm. Again, that's when it's basically right near the radar. Normally not a problem, but again, this is a little bit unusual. It's not the first time it's ever happened. There was actually a tornado several years ago that caused some tree damage, like not that far from the airport, or right around the airport. So again, that's what we are looking at. Let's go ahead and pull up the Bettendorf camera full screen now, if we can do that here, because it's giving us a good view of these storms coming into the area. That's likely a shelf cloud there. A lot of the times they're a little scarier. They look a little scarier than they actually are. But again, it's just a good indication of some strong winds coming into the area, and that is the view from Bettendorf. You can see how much darker it is on the other side of town in Davenport, and you can also see a whole lot of lightning. And again, we do have some strong gusty winds coming into the area and the potential for some hail also. Speaking of the hail, some of that, well, it could be affecting, well, a lot of Davenport. All right, so this is where hail is most likely right now, and it could be up to about 1 inch to 1.25 inches in diameter. And I'm going to put this into motion here, and you're going to see the path that the hail is moving on as that is moving off to the north and the east. Good news, notice around Andalusia and around Bluegrass, when we initially had that tornado warning issued, the hail was much more significant. So I'm sure that it was a lot bigger, but now the hail is lessening a little bit, and I know that's very good news. It was just about 4 years ago that we ended up with a hailstorm in Bettendorf and Davenport that caused a whole lot of damage. It was billions of dollars of damage here. Trying to figure out that hailstorm, it was before the derecho, I believe. It was April 7th, 2020, if our cameraman has that right. He's got a good memory for that kind of stuff. All right, I think we have another DOT camera pulled up for you also, so we can show you that here. All right, so that camera just went out due to the weather. Not a big surprise there. Let's go ahead and pull up the Rock Island camera full screen as we zoom that just around a little bit. Some hail coming through portions of the Quad Cities. Again, let me say it again. Here's the camera from Bettendorf. But I do want you to know, again, this is not like that hailstorm from early April 4 years ago, a little more than 4 years ago now. That caused more than $1 billion in damage in Davenport and Bettendorf alone. A lot of houses needed a whole lot of new roofs, a lot of cars. You remember driving down Kimberly Road, couldn't even go a quarter of a mile without seeing somebody trying to fix all the dents in people's cars. All right, here's the view from Rock Island right now. This is a live look as well, with some rain coming down, the wind picking up a little bit, and again, just the dark, ominous clouds. The sun doesn't set for about 90 minutes, but it is pretty dark right now in a large part of the Quad Cities. Mariah, some good news here. The hail, not as bad as it was just a little while ago.
Yes, Andy, we are continuing to monitor that and see that for the most part, it does look much better than what we've seen further across the areas of the south here, but we are still continuing to keep an eye on this tornado warning as it is still in effect for about 28 more minutes or so. Our official expired time is right around 6:45, and again, this system is capable of producing a tornado, although we have not seen anything that is confirmed, mostly radar indicated, and we are continuing to get the latest scans on our local pinpoint Doppler radar here. We're still noticing that we are still seeing 2 severe thunderstorm warnings as well, so even a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for areas of Davenport on top of that already tornado warning, and that will also be in effect for another about 28 minutes or so. The expired time is also right around 6:45 here, and with this we're seeing pretty similar to what we saw earlier, 60 miles per hour in terms of wind gusts, and hail mostly about a quarter of a size. So damage is possible, but seems like things are starting to improve in terms of the hail, but we still need to monitor that as it is mostly right around a quarter of a size in terms of those hail sizes. And you'll notice that the winds are starting to pick up as well. The clouds are looking a bit ominous. We're already seeing some lightning here in the sky on our Quad Cities cam that is looking from Bettendorf into portions of Davenport here. We're noticing, if you notice, that lightning is pretty prominent and it's continuing to kind of come back to back almost, Andy. So we will continue to monitor this storm and the warning and much of that as it continues to roll through much of our Quad Cities.
All right, thanks for that great info, Mariah. Appreciate it for sure. Here's a look at I-80 and Brady Street there. Obviously, the north side of town. That might even be a car. I'm not sure if that's pulled over. I don't know if they had some trouble or if it was just raining too hard, but that is a live look. A lot of the IDOT cameras are delayed by just a few seconds or so. But again, that about 20 seconds it looks like. So that's a live look. We'll continue to check some of these also. Nice to tap into the IDOT cameras. I do want to bring it back over to the pinpoint Doppler radar now. Just for a moment, I have the warnings turned off here because, again, when you get the warnings on top of other warnings, on top of the lightning data, on top of the radar data, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult exactly where the heavy rain is right now. So if you're watching from Moline or East Moline and you hear us saying the Quad Cities, really bad weather, and you're thinking, well, I hear some of the thunder, but it doesn't seem all that bad yet. Well, that's because the storms right now are more in Davenport, West Davenport, Rock Island, Southwest Rock Island, and even down toward Andalusia and Snowstar, where they didn't, again, it just wasn't a real long season for them this year. All right, well, they're getting some severe weather right now. But again, east side of the Quad Cities, you don't have the real bad weather just yet, but it is happening on the west side of the Quad Cities, thunder, lightning, and again, the wind's picking up. Let's go to, so we can even pull up the Rock Island camera right now, full screen, for the director in the back. It looks like it's really starting to pick up here in Rock Island. There's the pinpoint Doppler radar zoomed in just a little bit. And again, west side of the Quad Cities getting the worst of the weather right now. And then we'll check. Okay, so that's Rock Island. And again, that's downtown Rock Island. You can see the trees whipping around just a little bit. And the rain has no doubt picked up here just within the last 5 minutes. Again, that's the leading edge of the storm. A lot of the times with the leading edge of the storm, you get a quick burst of some very strong winds and some rain, and that is the case right now in some of Rock Island. I also want to zoom in on the pinpoint Doppler radar and show you Davenport getting hit hard right now. Heavy rain, potentially some hail. This is the pinpoint Doppler radar, so around Division, Telegraph Road, west side of town. We have very heavy rain coming down, potentially a little bit of hail, and there's just a lot of thunder and lightning also. All right, so we are going to check out now to see. We're going to check some things out. We're not checking out. We're not going to leave while we have a tornado warning going on in Scott County. So here's the latest on our rotation tracker. Again, the storm's starting to pass over and pass by the National Weather Service office, but we are still not picking up any real significant rotation even as the storm works its way across Scott County. So we'll continue watching that here. As of right now, again, we are not seeing, anything too bad as far as an imminent tornado. But Mariah, you are seeing some reports of at least some spotters noting at least some broader rotation in parts of Davenport.
Yes, Andy, we are getting reports that it is heading eastbound as of right now, and we're already seeing some heavier storm clouds roll across much of our Quad Cities. We saw that a bit earlier, but trainers are saying that yes, there is the possibility of some rotation that they're seeing, and not quite to the ground yet, but almost to the ground in Davenport. So we still need to stay hunkered down and in our safe spots, Andy, as the system continues to push to the north.
All right, it looks like we can get a specific location for where some of that rotation was reported. And again, it was around Jersey Ridge and Locust Street in Davenport. So that came in here. So here's Jersey Ridge. That would be after you kind of come out of the village, head north on Jersey Ridge, and then pretty close to Locust, which I think that might be the intersection where there isn't an intersection. I think maybe you go under or over or whatnot. But again, that would be Jersey Ridge and Locust. That's where we had a little bit of this rotation here. It used to, the traffic flow changed there several years ago. That's on Jersey Ridge, again, after you leave the village. So what we're looking at here, again, it's just so close to the radar that it's hard to say exactly where that rotation is right now. But that was a trained weather spotter report from around Jersey Ridge and Locust. So again, that's what we're focusing on right here, basically, is Jersey Ridge and Locust. That's where just a few minutes ago there was some rotation, and that was reportedly moving east. So maybe even down Locust, or probably at least a little bit north of east, which means it'll be approaching 74. They said there was some rotation and there was some lowering. Those would be really the last couple of things that you get before you end up with a tornado. But there was not a tornado on the ground at the time of that report, which really was just a few minutes ago. So we'll continue to watch that area. That's getting into East Davenport. That's not far from Bettendorf. So we will be getting into the Bettendorf area here shortly with some rotation as we continue continue to watch this. Again, that was one report. Haven't had anything reported on the ground just yet. But the tornado warning does continue nonetheless in Scott County, covering most of Scott County, and that goes for another 23 minutes. That'll be up until 6:45 tonight. So again, it does not look like what it looked like earlier when we most definitely had a tornado on the ground for quite some time. As far as our storm reports go, still not a lot from the metro Quad Cities. If you've been following along, though, you know there were tornadoes reported earlier today, and they still just have the one around Salem, Iowa, then some wind damage around Yarmouth. But again, I do expect even more of those reports to fill in here in the very near future. All right, so we're going to go back down to the metro Quad Cities. That's where we do have the tornado warning right now continuing in Davenport, in Bettendorf, in Eldridge, and even beyond as this goes all the way up to the Wapsie River. It does not include any of DeWitt or Calamus or Wheatland or Clinton. It doesn't include any of Clinton County. It is really just pretty much Scott County under the tornado warning right now for the potential of a tornado. All right, so that's the latest here as this storm continues to work its way through the area. If you're in Rock Island right now, you've had some rain and you're about to get some more heavy rain. But again, in downtown Rock Island, or even in most of Rock Island right now, it's a little bit lighter. I know you can hear the thunder from West Davenport, but we are looking at just some rain in Rock Island, some rain in Moline, as the worst of this weather right now is bottled up in Scott County right here, pretty close to the county border there. Now we do have some rain in Edgington and Andalusia, and that'll clip parts of the metro Quad Cities. But the worst of the weather, Mariah, in Scott County right now, fortunately, no reports of any tornadoes confirmed in Scott County. That's what we need to continue to be the case tonight.
Yes, Andy, that does look like to be the good news so far here. Mostly just seeing radar indicated, and of course nothing that has been confirmed on the ground as we're heading through our evening here. Mostly looking at some heavier downpours, some pretty strong winds, again close to 60 miles per hour, and we're noticing that severe thunderstorm warning does continue to stick around for about 20 more minutes or so, followed by another warning that will also stick around until 20 minutes or so. For the most part, we're noticing that the wind is sticking around to 60 miles per hour, Andy, but we're continuing to keep our eyes to the sky and keep everything up to date as we're learning more information on this system.
And the longer we can go without having anything confirmed on the ground in Scott County, the better off we will all be. Because again, these would be areas that'd be a lot more heavily populated than some of the areas that were affected by the tornado in Iowa earlier. All right, so that's the latest on our pinpoint Doppler radar. We'll go take a quick little tour. We can pull up those clouds in Rock Island. As again, in Rock Island, we had a quick shot of some heavy rain. And here's what it looks like right now in downtown Rock Island. That is the view from really just outside of our building. Still see some lightning flashes there. That's the U.S. Bank building there, at least the top of it anyway, across the street. A little while ago, a couple moments ago, these looked a little more like mammatus clouds that you see when you get a lot of turbulence around thunderstorms, but those have kind of thinned out just a little bit. It doesn't look quite like it did. But you can see the trees not blowing around, and again, not the heavy rain that we had earlier. We'll check out the view from up above now from our Quad Cities cam in Bettendorf. And you can see from that view, well, still looks like a pretty gloomy and a little bit of a scary sky around the Quad Cities. Right now, though, we don't have anything confirmed on the ground, so that's some good news, even though we did have at least a little bit of rotation noted not too far from the village, East Davenport, just a little while ago. Haven't had anything following that report of anything that, might resemble what could be a tornado on the ground. So a little bit of good news there. Back over to the pinpoint Doppler radar. This has the tornado warning on it there for Scott County, and it also has the radar data, which continues to show, again, a lot of lightning and, well, a lot of thunder and lightning. Those are the little lightning bolts. Every time lightning strikes somewhere, it shows up on this map really just a little bit later. So we'll continue to follow the potential for some rotation. And we mentioned earlier around the village, just on the north side of the village, around Locust and Jersey Ridge, we had a little bit of rotation. Well, that would be on its way over to Bettendorf now. So I do want to check that real quickly and see what we're looking at here. So this is the latest on the pinpoint Doppler radar here. It can do a lot of different things. It can tell us where the hail is. It can tell us where the heavy rain is. It tells us where the snow is in the winter. And it also can tell us where we have some rotation. And this would be crossing over Interstate 74 right now. Again, not that far from the National Weather Service site on the north side of town. But again, this could be approaching 74 as we go over to our pinpoint Doppler radar. And so, again, we're going to look here. We're going to pull up our pinpoint Doppler radar. And again, according to some law enforcement officials, maybe some of that rotation it was near Interstate 74, and where did they say? And Middle Road. So into Bettendorf. And again, that would be the same area of rotation. If you think about it, from Jersey Ridge and Locust just kind of going from Davenport into Bettendorf. Again, so we would have a little bit of rotation around that part near 74. And we're going to zoom in just a little bit here. Again, the data on the radar here, again, it doesn't show anything too distinct or too specific, but again, we are just going to rely on what we're hearing from the ground. So again, right around Interstate 74, it sounds like some law enforcement officers were reporting some rotation. So if you're in Bettendorf right now, near the big project going on, Middle Road, and near the pool, near Palmer Hills. If you're in that part of Bettendorf right now, this is moving basically in your direction. And even though it hasn't produced a tornado just yet, again, sometimes that is the case. And all right, let's pull up the. Let's pull up a couple different things here. The Bettendorf camera, well, it just went over to the Interstate 74 bridge. Let's point it back off to the right, where there is just a real burst of precip and likely some strong winds. I'm not sure who pointed it over in that direction. Let's point that to the right a little bit. And what about the traffic cameras? We have some of those all along Interstate 74. Let's see how traffic looks on Interstate 74. We could either pull up Middle Road, we could pull up Kimberly, we could pull up 53rd, we could pull up some of the near the last Iowa exit. All right, so here's Middle Road, and notice again, sky's very dark, not a lot of cars out, so that's a good thing, as you wouldn't want to be driving in this. So that's Interstate 74 and Middle Road, and we're going to continue. Okay, so let's go over to our Quad Cities cam in Bettendorf right now, and this is going to give you a good view of what's coming in here. As I think this should be moving basically toward the camera, and you can just see a lot of rain and more than likely some strong winds with that part of the storm as it continues moving off to the east basically and right through the metro Quad Cities. We had a report of some rotation in Davenport along Jersey Ridge where it comes real close to Locust there, and then just a mile or two down the road from that location, also around Interstate 74 as you go from Davenport into Bettendorf there, and places like Middle Road and Spruce Hills more than likely also having some pretty bad weather right now as this does continue moving, not too far again. It would have been the new entertainment place in Bettendorf is Cactus Jack's, Malibu Jack's, yeah. So that actually probably had some bad weather as well. As again, we continue to watch. This is exactly what it looks like live right now from about 750 feet up above the ground. That is the view from our Quad Cities cam in Bettendorf. Here's another one of the traffic cameras, 74 in Spruce Hills. Again, not a ton of cars out. Normally 6:30 on a Tuesday. We'd probably have a few more cars than this, so that's a good thing. But Mariah, right now, still no reports of any tornado in the Quad Cities, but parts of the metro Quad Cities, namely the Iowa side of the river, getting some real heavy rain and wind right now.
Right, Andy. And the good news is, looks like the National Weather Service is back at a shelter, so we will continue to kind of take that as good news. They're looking like they can get back to fully operations there. Looks like there was no damage done to much of the equipment or anything like that, so that is also important to know as we're still continuing to keep an eye on these warnings and storms as they roll through much of our Quad Cities. In terms of our severe thunderstorm warning, it is still in effect for another 13 minutes here, and the official expire time is mostly right around 6:45. Same thing for our tornado warning as well, looking to expire right around 6:45. Still moving mostly north and northeast, right around 40 miles per hour here. Still expecting to see some pretty strong winds within this warning, as well as some of those heavier downpours, Andy.
All right, so the severe thunderstorm warnings do continue. Here's some good news. As the National Weather Service got out of the safe spot, they were able to look at the radar and say, you know what, we don't have a lot of rotation, kind of like what we've been noting here. So they went ahead and canceled the tornado warning a little bit early, so that is some good news. Right now, we do not have a tornado warning going for the metro Quad Cities. Skies are a little ominous, again, a little dark. It is storming, but we do not have a tornado warning in effect for the Quad Cities right now. So again, that has been canceled early. Let me just confirm that. The tornado warning is canceled. They did that just about 90 seconds ago. So even though some people might be saying that there is still a tornado warning for the Quad City metro area right now, There is not. So we do want to let you know about that. Severe thunderstorm warnings continue though, and we're going to continue tracking these storms here in the Quad Cities in the Weather Center. And if we end up with another tornado warning, we're going to jump back on right away. But in the meantime, we're going to leave very important information up on the bottom of the screen as the storm does continue to move through parts of the Quad Cities. But again, we're looking at winds that are about 60 miles per hour, hail that's about an inch in diameter and hasn't been too much more than that. And we'll still be a little bit concerned about the line of thunderstorms southwest of the Quad Cities. Every once in a while, there could be a little tornado that spins up along that line. But again, if we end up with another tornado warning, we will absolutely let you know right away. And before we wrap this up, I do want to show you again a couple of storm reports that were sent into the National Weather Service earlier. And again, we're going to start to see more and more of these. There is one coming from the north side of the Quad Cities. That one came in just a little while ago, 15 minutes ago. Thunderstorm wind gust, Davenport Municipal. That's the airport. That's from the National Weather Service. About 60 miles per hour. Again, they did not have any damage. They didn't seem to have a whole lot of damage, but the equipment there did measure a wind gust that is right at those severe levels. So that's one of the storm reports that has come in. And then the one that most notably, again, it was the first tornado report around Salem. And again, they'll change that. It's 4:34 p.m. That's when a lot of this started, and it has continued really for the last couple of hours. But again, right now, no tornado warning in effect in the Metro Quad City. So a little bit of relief there. Actually, check that. We'll just go with a whole lot of relief there. That being said, the severe thunderstorm warning does continue for the Metro Quad Cities, and this is going to be in effect for a little while longer. In Rock Island, so far in the city of Rock Island, a lot of the worst of the weather has missed us, but there is still another thunderstorm back around Muscatine. Right now, that one does not have a severe thunderstorm warning with it. But again, the mess of storms with winds of about 60 miles per hour and hail that's about an inch in diameter, that does continue right now. But as of right now, no tornado warnings in effect, so we're going to get you back to our regular programming here. And if we end up with a tornado warning that does get issued here anytime this evening, we're going to jump back on and let you know right away, and we'll have full coverage of this. I'll wrap everything up. If we don't have any additional severe weather this evening, I'm going to let you know all about it here on our Quad Cities News at 9 and 10. In the meantime, thanks for sticking with us here over the last couple of hours. And we'll also have info tomorrow after the National Weather Service goes out and surveys a lot of the storm damage from today, as there was more than likely a tornado on the ground for probably 10 or 20 miles or something like that. I don't want to speculate on how strong it was, but it does look like it was on the ground for quite some time. More about that tomorrow. All right, we're going to get you back to the regular programming. If we get another tornado warning, I'll be here and I'll be on right away. In the meantime, we'll just leave the information up on the bottom of the screen.